Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Lindsay Birch. If we haven't met before, thank you so much for joining me here today. I have a story I'd like to share with you from the book of Joshua. Now, I have been listening through the book of Joshua recently, and I honestly forgot how good of a book Joshua is. Now, this book is filled with all sorts of really cool battles and miracles and just some really cool stories, and it's just a really good read. I really highly recommend that you go and read through it if you haven't read through it recently. So, let me give you a little bit of background story for the passage that we're going to be looking at today. So, the background is that the Israelites are just ending their 40 years of wandering in the wilderness. They're finishing up with their wilderness season, if that's what you like to refer to it as. They have come out of the land of Egypt with this slave mentality that, they've been slaves for 400 years, and they come with this deeply ingrained slave mentality that just kind of didn't go away immediately. And so God actually took the time of 40 years to work with this nation of Israel, where the old people with their ingrained mindset of slavery, they had to pass away out in the wilderness, and he had to raise up a new generation who were born into this wilderness experience in this full reliance on God, with the cloud, the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night, and the wandering in the wilderness where their clothes didn't wear out, and the manna from heaven was there every single day until the time of the conquering of the land of Canaan. Like, this new generation were born into this situation, which is so unique and so special. Like, they didn't have chocolate, that's for sure. Like, they didn't have nice stuff, they didn't have the pleasures of life, but they had this very special and unique experience where they had to fully rely on God for their very basic needs. And they didn't really like the situation a lot of the time, and I don't know if you've enjoyed your wilderness experience or are enjoying it, but I know I didn't enjoy it when I went through something that I would describe as a wilderness experience, but it is something that is so important to go through and so impactful and life-changing if you allow it to do the work that it needs to do in your heart. So we have this nation of Israelites who have gone through this wilderness experience. It's 40 years later, and now they're on the cusp of entering into the promised land. They have circled from Egypt, they've come down to the south, and they have come back up towards the north, but on the eastern side of the Jordan River. And now they have just crossed over the Jordan River, which was actually a miraculous experience, very similar to the crossing of the Red Sea, where at the crossing of the Red Sea under Moses' leadership, God made the water of the sea completely part, and the people walked across on dry land. There's a similar situation that happens here in the book of Joshua, where the Ark of the Covenant is walked into the middle of the river, and then the water starts backing up away, and it just kind of piles up at another place, and the rest of the water where the Israelites are kind of drains away until they walk across to the other side on dry land once again. So very similar of a situation. And we're going to see another similar thing in the passage we're about to read. But so part of the context is the Israelites have now walked across on dry land to the other side of the river. Now they're on the western side, and they're pretty close to the city of Jericho, which is going to be a really cool victory in a pretty short time, but we're not going to get to that in this video. So once they've crossed into the promised land, they've been consecrated, they've gone through a very spiritual and reflective time recently, and Joshua is out near Jericho, and now this is where we pick it up. So we're in Joshua chapter 5, starting from verse 13, going to verse 15, just a few verses today. It says, when Joshua was near Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with a drawn sword in his hand. That might be kind of intimidating, and Joshua is an army general, essentially. So a guy just standing there with a drawn sword might be like, hey, are you here to kill me? What are you doing here? And so Joshua went up to him, I guess maybe in a face-off sort of situation, said, are you here for us or for our enemies? Like, are you with us? Are you planning to ally yourself with us? Or are you with our enemies? Are you going to try to hurt us? Are you going to try and kill us? And so there's a very like us and them sort of mentality that Joshua is coming at with this situation. And the response in verse 14 from this man with the drawn sword is just amazing, and I love it so much. The question that Joshua asked, are you for us or for your enemies? This is how this guy responds. He says, neither, or in some translations, just no. Neither, he replied, but as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come. This is a really fascinating response. And as we go through this passage, we can see that this is essentially Jesus who's shown up pre-incarnation. This is a moment that we call a theophany, where God sort of reveals himself in some sort of physical form prior to the incarnation of Jesus 2,000 years ago. So this is a pre-incarnation theophany. God is showing up. He's revealing himself to Joshua in this moment, and he says, neither. It's not an us or a them situation. I'm not on your side or on their side. In fact, it's my side that is important, and where you ally yourself to is important. But I am the foundation stone here, right? I am the commander of the army of the Lord. I don't care who you are or where you come from. That's your decision. But I am here on behalf of God. I am here as the commander of the army of the Lord. And he says this in some ways to I guess, have a perspective shift for Joshua, to show him, hey, this is not about you and the Israelites. This is about God and his glory, okay? But yeah, he says, I am the commander of the army of the Lord, and I've now come. And then Joshua falls face down to the ground in reverence. He knows this is God, right? You don't worship angels or, other people or anything. That when John tried to bow down and worship an angel in Revelation, the angel says, no, don't worship me, only worship God, right? So the guy who's receiving this worship, he doesn't say stop it, so he's God, okay? Then Joshua fell face down to the ground in reverence and asked him, what message does my Lord have for his servants? So he's referring to him as my Lord or my God, essentially. The commander of the Lord's army, or basically Jesus, replied, take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy. Now, have you heard that before? Take your sandals off because this is holy ground. That's another thing that God, the last time that we saw him show up in a theophany, was at the burning bush with Moses. And the burning bush, which was God in this physical form represented, said to Moses, take your sandals off, for where you stand is holy ground. And so this echoes back to that moment once again. Take off your sandals, for the place where you're standing is holy, and Joshua did so. So there's some really cool nuggets in just these 3 verses in Joshua chapter 5, verses 13 to 15. Go check out Joshua. Go spend some time just really digging into it. The main point that I see from this passage, so we see, God showing up in a theophany. We see him echoing the miracle of, well, not exactly in this moment, but we do see the echoing of the miracle of the crossing of the Red Sea and the crossing of the Jordan River. But we also see the echoing of the burning bush and taking off your sandals, for the place where you're standing is holy. That is happening again, especially now that Joshua is sort of in the same place and in the same position as Moses. It would make sense that God would confirm to him with the same words that he did to Moses, that, this is the same God you're talking to. But the main thing that I see as important in this little passage is where Jesus, essentially Jesus, who's showing up as this warrior with the drawn sword, he says, but as the commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come. This is not about you. This is not an us and them situation. You need to align yourself with God and be on the same team as him. God is not on the same team as us. We need to choose to be on the same team with him. He is the anchor point that we need to come back to. We need to make sure that we are fighting the same battles that he is wanting to fight, not asking him to bless us with fighting the battles that we want to fight. We need to be aligning ourselves with him and not asking for him to try to align with us, with our wants and our desires. I really encourage you guys to pray about this and to see, are you asking God to be on your side, or would you like to change that prayer a little bit and ask God if you can become more aligned to God in his battles, in the things that he wants for you to do. This is my prayer for you. I hope this video has encouraged you. I've really enjoyed coming and sitting down and chatting with you guys about this today. Have a blessed Sabbath and a really great weekend, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. All right, bye.